Back home now, and winds of more than 120 kilometres an hour have left a trail of damage during a night of wet and wild weather across the state. Hundreds of trees were brought down, houses lost roofs, and fallen power cables blacked out tens of thousands of properties for much of the day.
Residents of this house at Summertown in the Adelaide Hills had a rude awakening when a neighbour's tree fell on their house.
It was half an hour later. Michelle would have been feeding the baby basically right where those tiles have sort of fallen in, so it could have been a very different story half an hour later.
Damage from fallen trees was widespread, with reports across the Adelaide metropolitan area and in regional areas. Emergency services volunteers were kept busy with about 500 call-outs after the severe wind gusts hit the state at about midnight.
We've been fairly lucky. There's been no injuries to people as far as we're aware. There's been some significant damage to some houses where trees have fallen on top of.
Trees falling onto power lines blacked out up to 60,000 properties for hours, with up to 13,000 still without power until late afternoon. Motorists had to take extra care in the conditions, while the tram line was out of action for about 7 hours after a tree fell across cables. The Weather Bureau says the punishing winds resulted from a cold front coming from Western Australia and combining with a low-pressure system over the Southern Ocean.
We've had wind gusts of as much as 126 kilometres an hour. That was reported at Cape Willoughby, and several other locations recorded gusts in excess of 100 kilometres an hour.
South Australia's recorded its strongest winds for the year, but not much rain. The highest fall of 22 millimetres was at Flinders Chase on Kangaroo Island. Up to 15 millimetres were recorded in the Adelaide Hills. Chris McLaughlin, ABC News, Adelaide.